My name's Angela Farmer, and I've lived in Brentford for about 22 years. Very happy in Brentford. Well, was happy in Brentford. So my question, Mr. Curran, is what is your overall strategy for planning and building in Brentford? Why does every planning application increase in the number of houses in flats by the time it actually gets to when it's kind of given out? So the stadium has gone up by 100, the Locks has almost doubled, the Waterman's is going, Morrisons is going, the High Street is going. I work in the NHS, so I work for public health, and we talk about patient experience. I'd like to know what you want to do about resident experience. We've lived through your horrible wheelie bin saga, and now I don't think there's going to be a place to put the wheelie bins. Why is Brentford being targeted so much for building? What is the overall strategy? We all know that you get, well, not you personally, but the council get grants. And of course, for every flat you build, you will get the inevitable council tax come in. But it seems that you are building at the expense of residents' experience.
On the wheelie bins, they were introduced a few years ago now, and without doubt, the street scene has improved because we don't have rubbish floating down. Well, it is rubbish, you're right. We don't have rubbish floating down the streets, and it's been an improvement. But we'll move on for that. As far as housing goes, we have a housing target. We've had one since 2010, 2014 and 2018, and we make that very clear in our manifesto, and we've been delivering on our housing targets. There are nearly 300,000 people living in Hounslow at the moment, and that's set to increase. The population of London is set to increase, and because Hounslow is a popular borough, people want to invest in the borough, and I'm pleased about that. I mean, I've lived here, we moved in the same time, I'm about 22 years in, so when I bought my house in Braemar Road, I was promised by the estate agents that the football club would be moving within 2 or 3 years, and the high street would be completely rebuilt in 5. So here we are 22 years later, and at least something's happening. And we have to provide housing for a range of people, not only people in social housing, but people on shared ownership and people who want to buy or rent. So there's a broad mix of tenure available in Hounslow and in Brentford. And it's because of the success of Hounslow and Brentford, and it's such a nice place to live. That's why we get developers want to build here. Now, you may object to some of those applications, or all of them, I don't know. But it's because that's what we said we'd do, and we're going to do that. And the government's increased our housing target, the mayor's increased our housing target, and those targets are very high, and people want to live in Hounslow, particularly in Brentford. So you have families who've had their children, they've come back from university or college or work and come back, and they want to live with their families in the borough as well, and we're trying to build houses for them as well. So there is a absolute strategy to deliver on our manifesto, to build more social housing and to build more housing for the private sector as well, and through housing associations.
The support services are really meagre. Getting to the doctor is difficult. The post office has gone, as she's raised, and the whole of Brentford High Street is being obliterated because the southern side is being built for flats, and Morrisons is going, and the whole nature of Brentford. I mean, when I retire in a few years, I would not be living in Brentford, and I feel I've been pushed out of my home. Very personal feeling. That's how I feel, because actually everywhere I go is now a tower block or something waiting to be built.
As far as infrastructure, and you will know if you're in the health service, that the health service is responsible for providing health care. We're responsible for public health, and we carry on doing that. But as far as GP services, acute services, that's all provided by the NHS. We work closely with the NHS. They're aware of our plans, our local plan, etc., and our other planning applications. We work with them closely about that, so they have to plan and provide services for the increase in the population. That's the same for the mayor, so around public transport, they all have to do that. Education, as you know, since 2010, councils were barred from building schools, so we can't do that. So we have to work with what we've got, and we have to work with free schools and academies, and we try to get them in the places where we think they're needed most. And it's important that every child has a school place. It's a statutory responsibility of the council, although we have no direct control over it. But we have invested in schools. We've just opened the new Oakland School. It's a £30 million investment on behalf of the council for people who are in real need, and that's for children and young people with learning disabilities. So we do everything we can within our powers to do that. But you understand, again, because you're in public health, in the health service, that like you, we've had our budgets cut. We've had over 147 million taken out of our budget since 2010. So things are very difficult, but we are trying to do everything we can to provide those infrastructure services, which are so important to everyone. And we encourage those other agencies to come up to the plate and deliver those.
The council also has a fund called the Community Infrastructure Levy. That money is given by developers to actually contribute to improve the infrastructure that the developments the pressure the developments bring in the borough. And the council will have plans, or has got plans, and I'll come back to this later on, to actually ensure that some of this levy, some of this money is actually spent for the benefit of the community, and it's aimed at improving infrastructure in the area, not just transport but health services as well. And it's important that we ensure that this money is actually spent so that the additional population, the needs of the additional population can be met. We can all get to school properly, we can all go to school, we can all go to our local GP surgery, and there'll be a room on the bus and on the train for you to take your journey.
And so more and more people are presenting themselves as homeless to the council, and the number of people that are on the waiting list has increased drastically over the years. So it is imperative that we do build homes so that we do try and meet some of the housing crisis, and it's our moral duty to do that. I understand the arguments around infrastructure, and of course there is always the right balance to strike, but you will all agree that you've probably seen the number of people sleeping rough on the streets has increased as well across the country. So it's really important that we do build housing and build different kinds of housing to meet people's needs. And I think that's really important. And I think it's important to recognise that the number of people that come through our doors as homeless has gone up drastically.